To it. Well, the ANZ Bank has issued a warning this morning that in future it won't follow the Reserve Bank on interest rates, but instead will meet once a month and determine its own rate policy. Joining me now is Opposition Leader Tony Abbott. Tony, very good morning to you.
G'day, Karl.
Let's start, though, with this important story. I wanted to talk to you about the passing of Sir Zelman Cowen, the former Governor-General. Of course, he was credited with restoring the respect to the office after the dismissal of Gough Whitlam. Out of respect to him, a comment.
Look, he was a great Australian, and as you say, Karl, he did bring a touch of healing to the headship of state after the trauma of the Whitlam dismissal. I was never a critic of Sir John Kerr. I think he did his duty, but certainly many people were, and I think Sir Zelman Cowen was a unifying figure in our history and helped to rally support for the Crown and our Constitution.
All right, thank you very much for that, and all of our sympathies with his family and prayers. Tell me about the big banks. They've finally come on board this morning. That's the headlines around Australia. Too little, too late, or is it all welcomed?
Well, I think what we've seen here, Karl, is an effective exercise in people power. I think that the public reaction to the indications that the banks weren't going to pass on that cut was very strong, and I think in response to the public, the banks have largely done the right thing. In the end, though, the government has got to do the right thing, and when you've got a government which is still borrowing more than $100 million every single day, you're putting upward pressure on interest rates, which we just don't need at a time when the world economy is in all sorts of trouble.
All right, the ANZ Bank has come out this morning. This is the big story this morning. It says it's not even going to worry about what the Reserve Bank does in terms of official interest rates. That is a massive up yours, if ever I've seen one.
Well, I think that's right, and it shows that Wayne Swan might have been called the world's greatest treasurer, but he's the world's least authoritative treasurer here in this country.
So what would you do about a bank being renegade like that?
I think the government has got to get its own house in order, and when you've got a government that's borrowing more than $100 million a day, you've got a government which is not really contributing to the kind of climate where rates would be coming down.
Effectively, though, the Treasurer, whomever is in government, is not going to be able to do anything about it.
Well, as I said, the Treasurer should get his own house in order. What we saw the other week with the crisis mini-budget was a sign that the government is going to be borrowing an extra $30-odd billion that we didn't anticipate, and this does not contribute to the kind of climate where the banks listen to the Treasurer.
OK, let's move on. Check out Stephen Conroy's response to the question of whether or not Kevin Rudd and Julia Gillard actually get along. This is what he said.
It's about
everyone's looking forward to Christmas.
All right. Stephen Conroy, good to see you. I think he answered the question, Karl.
Some of us more than others. Very difficult question to answer when they hate each other. All right. There was no denial about that. Your thoughts?
Look, plainly they do have a poisonous relationship, and you cannot run an effective government when the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister don't talk to each other. Now, frankly, one or other of them has to go. There are all these rumours sweeping Canberra about a cabinet reshuffle. If Julia Gillard wants to reassert her authority over the government, frankly, she's got to deal with the Foreign Minister.
We'll get onto that reshuffle in just a second, but all of this does remind me, it takes me back to your golden era with John Howard and Peter Costello and the tensions that surrounded those two. This was Peter Costello back in the day.
If you haven't done the wrong thing, if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear from the truth.
All right, so that was Peter Costello in response to John Howard saying that he would eventually retire or resign, and then he'd effectively pass it on to Peter Costello. So what's the difference?
Well, Peter Costello and John Howard always had a constructive working relationship. Yes, from time to time there were tensions, Karl, but every morning when Parliament sat, I would sit down in a meeting with Peter Costello and John Howard, and they would talk as colleagues about the issues of the day. Plainly, Kevin Rudd and Julia Gillard don't speak at all. Julia Gillard delayed dumping the Australia network tender until Kevin Rudd was out of the country, so he couldn't even attend the cabinet meeting where this was discussed. That's the extent of the poison between them.
This is just politics, though.
It shows it is a totally dysfunctional relationship. The Foreign Minister wasn't consulted about the East Timor. solution. The Foreign Minister wasn't consulted about the live cattle disaster. The Foreign Minister wasn't consulted about the Malaysia people swap. The Foreign Minister wasn't consulted about selling uranium to India, even when he is in India. I mean, the level of dysfunction here is completely paralysing the government.
They'll more than likely have a reshuffle before Christmas. That is the rumour, with Rob McClellan maybe retiring at the end of this term. It's all
the interesting
balls
thing,
in the
Karl,
air at the moment. Is it going to make any difference at all?
Well, the interesting thing is, A, will she have the guts to get rid of Kevin Rudd? And B, watch Bill Shorten. Now, if Bill Shorten is promoted, it will demonstrate that the faceless men are really in charge.
All right, this is my last opportunity to see you before Christmas. So I just wanted to say a very Merry Christmas on behalf of the Today Show. Merry Christmas to Mr Abbott, everyone.
And Merry Christmas to everyone.
Gusto,
yeah, that's
for goodness
right.
Sake.
Carl?
Yes?
Extra large size of budgie smugglers.
You've got me a present.
Yeah.
Can I open it now?
You can, mate.
You're joking about the budgies, aren't you?
It's your size, mate.
It is an extra large. All right. Thank you very much.
That's one big budgie, mate.
I don't know how I feel about this, Mr Abbott. What are you trying to say? Thank you very much. A lovely gift.
And from the Queenscliff Surf Club, too.
Don't worry, I will put those to good use.
I'm sure you will, mate. Boise, what about for the girls?
All right. You come bearing gifts today, unlike the banks.
I shudder to think.
Go on.
Flowers?
Yep.
Flowers for the girls. It's the spirit of gift giving.
Because I was going to say, with budgie smugglers alone...
Well, and the
Yes, this is
flowers,
Tony's
Lisa,
manservant. Yes.
and Georgie, the flowers match the Speedos, OK?
Beautiful.
Oh, right.
Poinsettia.
They're beautiful.
Love them.
Great at this
Thank
time of
you.
year, too.
They do.
Thank you very much.
And I gather if you keep them in the shade, that changes the colour.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
you know, yeah.
Right.
Sounds a bit like politics,
Well,
really,
that's
doesn't
right,
it?
that's right. You can even make them go green if you treat them badly enough, they'll go green.
I would have thought that the budgies were enough present for Lisa.
No, I need a top half as well, Karl.
Lisa might think that's visual pollution, mate. But
Me wearing it, absolutely. Thanks, Karl.